Epic Ride is and also eligible for the Derby, and we still haven't heard conclusively whether or not Endlessly is going to run. It looks like he probably will at this point, but just in case, it might be a good idea to take a look at Epic Ride. This is a nice horse. You can see 5 starts. He's been in the money every single time, and ran really big in the Bluegrass Stakes last time on dirt. He had been running on synthetic at Turfway. So a couple things I like about this horse is, number one, he's got a lot of grit. I mean, he likes to fight and he likes to win. I'm not sure he's good enough to factor in this field, but he did run a pretty good third and attended a really strong pace and was able to hang in there for third. So he's kind of interesting from that perspective. We take a look at his pedigree, and you'll see that he does have some stamina influences, so his dosage index of 1.4 is pretty good, and he's got a nice GSV at 55.46, being by Blame, of course, who beat Zenyatta in the Breeders' Cup Classic, much to our chagrin, but Blame was a really nice 2-turn horse. And then you've got underneath Pick a Time and Gio Ponte, who was equally effective on dirt as well as turf. Being by Taylor the Cat was more like a mile and an eighth, but Gio Ponte does add some stamina, I think, and you can see by the conduit profile that it is skewed towards stamina. So I think a mile and a quarter would be within Epic Ride's wheelhouse if, in fact, he runs in the race. And we look at the stakes winners from Blame and the top earners, and you see there's quite a bit of black type there. Blame was a hell of a good horse, and he's been a pretty good stallion. So a lot of winners there. But Queen Caroline was a really nice, it's turned into a really nice dam, just pops off the page for me. But I don't think it's going to be a problem. You look and you see that Epic Ride is only the second foal for the mare. So and the reservation didn't do terribly well. It never won a race. So obviously Epic Ride is the star in this group. Hard to tell much from there. So we look at the Equibase, and you see he's been running on synthetic for the majority of his races, with the exception of the Bluegrass. But as we thought, a lot of horses pop when they move from synthetic to dirt, and he was no exception. I thought he ran a really big race in the Bluegrass. I just didn't think he could pull off a win, and he didn't. But I thought that was a very good third, considering how fast they were going early. So now let's take a look at the Bluegrass Stakes, and we'll take a look at the Battaglia as well, just to get a feel for Epic Ride and how he's been doing. John Battaglia Memorial, and this was the prelude to the Jeff Ruby Stakes, and Epic Ride is in the 6th hole, right in the middle.
And there they go.
And you see tiny little bobble there, I guess you'd call it, at the break, but he didn't affect him, and he got right to where he wanted to, and attends the pace, just sitting in a really good position.
He'll get a nice tracking trip in the 5th position. Looks like he's going to get to save a little.
And he's right where he wants to be. And got Encino hanging right off his throat latch there, and you have to believe that Epic Ride had been doing so well that they would want to track him.
From the front, Encino to his outside. Out the belly is Saints ground. He's 5 lengths from the front along the rail. Good volley.
He's got a little bit of a hold on Epic Ride. He's pretty keen there.
From the front, from the far outside, Mission Ready goes with him.
He loosens up a little bit.
Mr. Faversham's the last of all. 23 and 4 fast. Bolt at midnight dictates the terms. I'll lengthen a tail to Fidget. And Blue-Eyed George is in a super stalking spot from the outside.
And I'd say the pace was probably average for Turfway. On dirt, that would be considered slow, but not at Turfway, not for a 2-turn race. But you see Epic Ride's making his move, and Encino's going to follow him. Certainly considered the horse to beat, you'd have to believe.
Here's Epic Ride to tackle Bolt at midnight. Blue-Eyed George is
and there he goes. He's got plenty of horse.
Move for third from the outside. Epic Ride has come away with the lead. Here comes Encino to the outside.
Carried out a little bit, a little race riding there, I'd say.
Bolt at midnight from the inside. A final furlong to run.
But he's game in the finish.
Battaglia Memorial. Epic Ride. Encino is testing him. Blue Eye George from the rail. Here comes
Drifting out a little
Encino.
bit there, but
Encino
he kept
wins
on,
the
and
John
Encino was
Battaglia
just better.
Memorial.
That was the bottom line, but it was a very solid
Epic Ride
race,
second, Blue
I
Eye
thought.
George third, then
And
Bugatti.
Epic Ride did what he's been doing at Turfway. He's just a really love the fight in that horse for sure. So here's the Bluegrass Stakes, and Epic Ride is in the 8 hole.
And they're
So he
off
got away just
in the
fine,
Toyota
and
Bluegrass.
pretty
There
keen
goes
to
Top
get up
Connor,
amongst the
out
leaders.
for
That's the
early
way he
lead.
runs.
Top Connor, right out of the gate and right to the front, just
get
a
carried
touch.
wide
Moves
into
up
the first
toward
turn.
the outside to press the issue now in second. Door knock away third.
But he's
Good
in
Money
really good
is
position
in
at
fourth
this
position.
point.
Epic Ride is a wide fifth. BU is away running in sixth. Sees the Gray between horses seventh. Lat Long a bit wide around the first turn. 3 lanes off the rail in eighth. Sierra Leone is in ninth position. Mugatu is last of the 10. Top Connor is the leader. Top Connor on top by
really
3/4
good
of a
position.
length,
No
headed on to the
excuses,
backstretch.
really.
Just a touch goes second,
She's
just off
going
his
out
flank at
rank as hell
23.
back there, just
0.15
not
seconds for
wanting
the
to rate at
opening
all.
quarter. And then further back, Epic Ride is third by just a neck. Door knock is fourth against the rail, just 2 lengths off the lead. Gap of 2 more. BU sneaks up the rail into the 5th position. Good Money, 6th on the outside. It is followed by Seize the Gray in 7th. Lat Long is 8th. Mugatu is 9th, and Sierra Leone is last of 10, facing a lot of traffic to deal with onto the far turn. 46.48 seconds.
He's just
the time for
drafted
that
right
first
off at
half
just
mile.
a touch,
Top Connor,
and
the
pace
leader.
is picking up a
Top
little
Connor
bit here.
leads a length and a half. Just a touch is second by a length to Epic Ride, who's third a half length. Door knock is still there in fourth to the inside, and BU is in fifth and still 7 lengths off the lead. Now Sierra Leone is toward the center of the pack, looking toward the outside. 8 lengths to make up. Just over a quarter mile to go. Top Connor is the leader. Epic Ride swings wide.
He
Just
swings
a touch
out, he got
between
swung
horses.
wide
Door knock
again.
has to shift lanes
He's
along
game,
with
though.
Sierra Leone. That pair out in the center of the track, still 5 lengths off the lead as they move by the 8th pole. Just a touch has taken the lead from Top Connor. Sierra Leone is running on from the outside. A 16th
Just
to
ran
go.
really big. Just wasn't quite good
Sierra
enough.
Leone comes forward for the lead and deep stretch and wins the Toyota Bluegrass for
We're in a game
Tyler
race. He just wasn't as good as
Just
the
a
top
touch
2. That was the bottom
second.
line,
Epic
but you'd
Ride
have to
was
like that
third.
effort,
1
seeing as how he
minute,
attended a pretty quick pace.
50.08 seconds.
Definitely a fighter. So we'll take a look at the pace study for Epic Ride and for the Battaglia and the Bluegrass Stakes. And just very quickly, I know I've reviewed this a number of times with you, but for those who the uninitiated, 1FR, 2FR, 3FR, that's the first, second, and third pace calls starting at the half mile, 6 furlongs, and then the final. EP, AP, and SP are different ways to gauge pace, and EP is the second call of the Bluegrass Stakes, and that's the race we'll use. And then sustained pace, or SP, is the second and third fractions averaged, and then the average pace, AP, is the average of the EP and SP. And it's just a way to gauge how a horse carries his speed throughout the race and sustains his pace. So you see in the Battaglia Memorial, the fractions were more reasonable being on synthetic surface. So his first couple of numbers are a little slow for the first and second fractions for a 2-turn race. But again, being on synthetic, that's understandable. And consequently, he was able to have more in the tank for the 52.69 for the third fraction. Anything over 53 is considered very good heading into the Derby. So you see he was a little on the one pace side, but that had to do with the pace being a little slow and synthetic, I would say. But overall, a pretty good race. Bluegrass, he's first on dirt, which usually when horses leave synthetic and move to dirt, they will pop because it's an easier surface for them to run on, and synthetic allows them to get really fit to go into a race. So it's an angle I've always used. I love it. So you see the first fraction, he was right up on what was a pretty quick pace, 56.31. And then his fractions diminished from there, and that isn't a surprise. Usually when the pace is pretty good, or a front runner or a horse who's rating just off the pace generally will have a pattern like this. So it was pretty quick at 56.31. 54.43 is still pretty quick for a second fraction. So that would only serve that he wouldn't have very much in the tank with a 49.5, which is a little on the substandard side. But visually, obviously, he had plenty of horse. He was very game in the stretch, and I would consider that to be a really good race. Certainly, with fractions more reasonable, I think that Epic Ride can run could run the same type of race in the Derby, and perhaps even factor and get underneath for the Try the Super. I'm not sure he's fast enough, but I thought for his first dirt effort that was really solid. And given his pedigree, I don't think 1.25 miles would be an issue. So Epic Ride might be one to watch if he draws into the Derby. So we'll look at issues and concerns. Really, the only one I have is speed. I just don't know if he's fast enough. That's really what it comes down to more than anything else. He's certainly eligible to take another step forward. He has been very consistent speed-wise. So, the only thing is when a horse is really consistent, well, how much farther can he go is kind of the call there. So speed would really be the only issue. I think he proved class-wise that he can run with the better horses. Just a touch in Sierra Leone and no slouches, and Dornoch, has been pretty good, although he's got issues we've talked about. But anyway, if Epic Ride draws in, I think he's a horse that's pretty interesting and maybe worth consideration.